we had one shot to make an impression, and I jumped in. And what people didn't realize was Josh and I refinanced our house. We took all the equity out of our house.
Wow.
We
refinanced a Jeep.
We refinanced our car. It took all of the equity out of our vehicles, and we maxed out every single credit card we had. So everything was put on the line. Failure was not an option for us.
Welcome to the KnifeWife podcast. I'm Suz, married to Bob Terzuola. This podcast is about couples who live, love, and work together. And has little to do with knives. Hey everybody, here we are again. Thanks for listening. It's Suz Terzuola and my partner in crime.
This is Bob. Hi, y'all.
Hi, y'all.
Hi, y'all.
Or as my favorite podcast says, hey, Bear. Anyway, we're here today again. They haven't locked us out. And I guess people are really listening because they send comments and questions, which we'll get to in a minute. But we're a couple, for those of you who might be listening the first time, who've worked together for many years. And my husband is a knife maker, and I do the deal part of the business. He makes the knives. And if anyone had told me 20 years ago that I would be running a knife company, I would laugh. Anyway, I do my own thing. I have my pattern design company, which very soon, in fact, beginning of September, the first knives are going to come out from ProTech with my pattern on them, on the handles of Bob's knives. So that's pretty exciting.
It's called traffic pattern.
It's called traffic because I learned all about that moving to California. A lot of traffic. Anyway, we're a sexagenarian and a septuagenarian having a late life crisis. And so you get this podcast.
There'll be an octogenarian pretty soon.
I know. I'm so old. Anyway, were you around with dinosaurs? Were there dinosaurs then?
No, there weren't, but it's nice being an octogenarian because I love octopuses.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay, but
yeah.
do you eat them? I don't eat them because they're too smart.
No.
Yeah. Anyway, so I hope to find some fun today and some interesting stories. You know, I think everybody is connected through our stories. The couple we have on today have a tremendous story, and I think it's going to be a long one. Anyway, we have some comments from this week on our Facebook fan page, The KnifeWife, or Instagram, The KnifeWife. And one is about pets from Whitewater J. Marston. It says, just listen to the show. Love it. And that was the pets episode. And then number 19, which was with Lionel and Natalie, people wrote all kinds of nice things, but I think the best way to say what sums them up was an exceptional couple with lots of exclamation marks.
Mm-hmm.
And then for Andrea and Rob, who run the Hate Dust Project, the fundraiser, number 18, great work, keep it up. I think they were talking to them, not us. Pretty much. Anyway, so today we have with us a couple that I've known since I moved to New Mexico years ago, but Bob has known the male counterpart of this couple since he was born.
Since he was born and just a little snot-nosed kid living in Albuquerque. Yep.
Anyway, let's welcome Josh and Jen Kronberg. Say hello, you guys.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good. Anyway, Josh and Jen have a ninja gym in Albuquerque. And when I was sending out their email and stuff to our team here, at a different day radio or the Film Hub, one of the guys who I've known, he runs the mastermind group here, Jeff Fox, told me he knew Josh from back in the day. So hopefully he'll stop in and say hello. I invited him to. So Josh and Jen. Josh was a gymnast and a great gymnast. And but what do you do when you grow up and you're a gymnast? You know, if you either you train people or coach people, right? I mean, there's not a lot of things, but Josh turned something that he has his love into a job. But that was a long road, and so I wanted to have him and Jen talk about, because Jen supported him 100%. Talk about how you got started in this ninja, gym, warrior, whatever you call it, business.
Gosh. Okay. So yeah, I started to get back into gymnastics. There was adult gymnastics classes, and so I took about a 20-year break.
Okay.
And I felt like, I'm getting my strength back. And I've been a huge fan of the TV show Sasuke, which is the Japanese Ninja Warrior.
Mm-hmm.
And it was on cable, and I watch it all the time. And every once in a while, there'd be an American on that show. And I'm like, man, I wish I could be on there. How do those guys get on there? And then I saw American Ninja Warrior season 1, and immediately I applied. And
how
Jen,
do you
what'd
apply?
think? I applied for American Ninja Warrior.
How do you
And
do
what do you
that?
think, Jen? Oh gosh, it's it's more intense now, but back in the day it was just online. You just would maybe make a quick little video on who you are and your athleticism, and just see if they pick you. And so sure enough, I got on season 2, and
Mm-hmm.
I drove all the way out to Venice Beach. I thought I was going to go out there and just dominate the course from getting back into gymnastics. And then, I'm watching these guys, I'm watching these really good athletes, like starting to falling left and right. And I see a few of them finish, but it kind of got in my head. And then I'm standing there next to this course, and it's just bigger in person. So it's kind of intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
So I got on that obstacle course for my chance, and I took it very cautiously. And I almost fell on the first obstacle, which were just quintuple steps, actually quad steps back then. Almost fell on those. And then the rope swing took me 3 tries to get across. The way it was offset, you had to get a massive swing and get low on the rope.
Yeah, and Josh, as I remember, was this like in the middle of the night you were doing this?
So seasons 1, 2, 3, and 4 were all filmed during the day. So it was actually pretty hot out.
Okay.
So I was just being scorched in the sun.
Mm.
But yeah, I failed on the third obstacle, and it was a balance obstacle. And I just kept kicking myself, saying, man, I drove all the way out here to Venice Beach and failed in 45 seconds. And I said it was a great experience, but I'm never going to let that happen again. So I started building all these obstacles in my backyard. And
I remember. How was that for you, Jen?
Oh, I had my entire backyard destroyed. I had this beautiful grass that I enjoyed mowing every weekend, and one by one these obstacles just kept appearing, and I was not too excited about ninja. Not in the beginning. It took over our backyard, and I found it more and more difficult to mow the backyard. So I
You had to
just
do the obstacle
kinda-
course. Oops.
Yeah, it was an obstacle course, just mowing the lawn. And he just started replicating everything that he saw. And I just threw my hands in the air and said, okay, well, my backyard is now going to be an obstacle course, and just let it be. So,
Okay. And you had 2 little kids then, right?
yes, our kids at the time, our son was 1 and our daughter was 5. And thankfully they weren't too much of the backyard playing kids. So we kind of just, okay, let dad do his thing. And he did.
You did. Okay.
I remember that obstacle course. I didn't think that Home Depot stocked that much plywood and 2x4s. I mean, it looked like you were building a bridge someplace. Did you ever put the kids on there and just let them play around?
No, they're little.
So yeah, when Maya got a little older, she started swinging on the rope a little bit and just playing around, but not too much. It was pretty rickety. It served the purpose, but I don't know. I would let some friends come over and play on it, but Jen was always kind of worried something would go wrong, so we didn't have too many people come over.
You know, Jen, you were wise. I was thinking the same thing. Grew up, my father, we called him Captain Safety. He was a safety engineer. And he would have to have an 8-foot fence around all that in the backyard. He would never allow. That would not be okay. So I could see where it would be a worry. But anyway, so you came back. So you went to season 2, and then you came back for 3, right?
Yeah, so season 3, I showed up and I knew I just had to take it aggressively. And I really felt confident just from all my training in my backyard. I knew these obstacles inside and out. And sure enough, I got through the whole course, got up the warp wall, hit the buzzer. Back then, they were only taking the top 30, and I was number 30. And then there was just a few more people to go, and I got bumped out. So just barely by a few seconds, honestly. So anyway, I was hooked, and I went back for season. So that one was in Venice Beach, and then season 4 was in Dallas. And I got up the warp wall there. That's when they started switching to NBC. So the qualifiers were during the day, like they'd always been. And then that's when, for filming purposes, switched finals at night. And I was exhausted. I didn't know that I had to run the course at like 3 a.m. And I really was gassed out, and I couldn't get up the warp wall on my finals night. So the next day, I was so close to making it to Vegas. But then let's see, we keep going. We go to season 5 in Denver, and I got up the warp wall, completed that day 1, and then city finals, just being freezing in Denver, middle of the night. I couldn't get it. I got to the salmon ladder, and I thought I was going to get up it because I pretty much mastered it from my backyard, and did not. So I failed there, one obstacle away from going to Vegas. And season 6 was rough. I went back there to Dallas again, and I failed the 5th obstacle, and that was really going to be my year. Like they had me fly out a couple days early, got a really nice interview, put me in the Dallas newspapers, one of the ones to watch. And because I failed the 5th obstacle, it was kind of just, that was it for me. They didn't call me back. The show definitely changed to more reality TV. And when now even the application process, it was more about your backstory, about your TV personality, your interview skills, your look, and then your athleticism was like next in line. So yeah, they stopped calling me. I don't think I gave a good interview. But then all the way, let's see, I kept testing for the producers, went to Orlando, went to Oklahoma City, Indianapolis. I know it was season 10. And I went to test in Tacoma on season 11, and they actually changed the way the walk-on line, how they got people on the walk-on line, and I drew a number. I was number 11, so I got to compete, and I did well. I got to the mega warp wall. Very few people passed obstacle 5. So when I got there, I knew I was going to finals, and I went for the mega wall. I unfortunately didn't get that $10,000 up the wall, but I made it to the finals, and I failed the 5th obstacle. So that was my shot, my last chance to go to Vegas. I blew it.
Well, I have to say that, going and preparing and just getting there, first of all, and then competing and not, winning and coming back and going through the same thing. It's sort of a little bit like Sisyphus, but I just am amazed. And I think for people who try something once and they say, oh, it didn't work out, man, you have really, really endured and keep coming back. So at what point did you think about opening the gym? Were you still doing that, or was it after that?
Okay, so on season 4 in Dallas, this is 2012, I met some people from Albuquerque, and this guy named Daniel French. He's a firefighter, and his cousin Arnold Risvik. They all decided to open up a parkour gym downtown Albuquerque, and they asked if I could recreate my backyard, like a little section of Ninja Warrior in their parkour gym. So I did. I helped them. They helped me build it, and basically I would teach classes there for a couple of years. One of my training partners convinced me to partner up and open up a ninja gym, and just it was successful right away, but bad partnerships.
I know. And Dan, our son, had a bad partner in Guatemala. And so I know when he was going through all that and divorcing himself from, or whatever you want to call it, from that partnership.
Yeah.
I said to him, over 50% of partnerships fail. That's just, two human beings that have to get along, and they have to have the same mindset, and they have to complement each other and not compete with each other. And it's just part of having, I had a partnership fail years ago. Never again. The only partner I have now is Bob. he can't get out. Anyway, so you opened the gym, I remember, and you went to the second place, and I went to both gyms, and they're incredible. It's so far from my athletic abilities. I was never a gymnast. Bob was never a gymnast. Things with a ball I liked. But as far as that kind of training, you even tried to train us at one point. We were really failures. And
no, we had fun. We were working out. You guys were lifting. It was great.
It was. I do train 3 days a week now, and I have been for over a long time because I have some real issues. And so it's, I say nothing is possible without it, and I can't believe it. And so I was trying clothes on because we're going to Italy Thursday, and I was like, oh, those arms, they're getting a little more defined. They're not looking like hams coming out of a shirt. Anyway, so and I love it. And the one thing about California, which I think you guys would love, is that fitness is so important here. And when you're over 65, you are allowed to belong to any amount of gyms you want to belong to, and they pay for it.
Oh, wow.
So it's pretty fantastic. And Bob at his age also gets lifetime physical therapy, which he does a couple times a week. So back to that octogenarian thing. But anyway, that's the one thing I love here. So you guys are a breath of fresh air for Albuquerque.
Thanks.
You really are. I remember when you used to meet us. I remember Bob saying to you, you said, well, what of these machines do you like? He said, ones that I can sit on. Anyway.
I do.
So then at some point you started testing the obstacle courses for the show, right?
Yeah. Season 5, when I failed, or not failed, but I didn't make it to Vegas by one obstacle, but I was kind of, at the level of the guys that were going to Vegas. So the producers allowed me to go to Vegas. I got to run stage 1, run stage 2, and try stage 3. And I did really well. If I would have been a competitor, I would have gotten to stage 3. Mm-hmm. Basically, they used me as a guinea pig. There were only 11 of us at the time.
How nice of you.
It was so fun. It was so fun. We could, they would maybe just have us stand on one obstacle and say, okay, just try this one. And if everybody got through it too easily, they would maybe make some adjustments to make it a little more challenging until we started failing, and then they would fine tune it.
That's a good behind the scenes story. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And it was great. And they would use us for camera angles. They would use us. We would run the entire course, and they'd be like, okay, that took about 2 minutes and 20 seconds. Let's give the competitors 2 minutes, 40 seconds, or what, just kind of gauging our pace. So yeah, I've done that so more times than I've competed, and I'm going to go out to Vegas and do it once again in about 3 weeks. So looking forward to that.
So much fun. And there's no pressure like when you're competing.
It's a different kind of pressure because you still want to do well. You're still there with your peers, your other Ninja Warrior friends, and in front of the producers. They're, all eyes are on you. It's not like cameras, and it's not like you're one shot. So that kind of pressure, it's different. But it's you against the obstacle course, and just even for yourself, you want to do well, right? So you put that pressure on yourself to just go out there and just crush that obstacle, right? That's in front of you,
right? Yeah, it's amazing. And I watch, I follow you on Facebook when you're you set up at your gym a new course every week, right?
Yeah, so I'll spend anywhere from 3 to 6 hours, depending on what we're doing, every single Monday or starting Sunday night, and rearrange as many obstacles as possible, come up with new stations, new courses, new things to focus on. And so every week, the curriculum for the kids and the adults and open gym people, it's just completely different. I mean, you have your standards. You're always going to be able to run a warp wall, and you're always going to be able to swing on some rings. But the combinations of where the steps are and the trampolines are. So it's just kind of fun and challenging. And then I work out with my class every Monday, Wednesday, Friday night. And at the end of class, we always race a course just for fun. And I I run a different course three days a week.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not. I don't usually ask people their age, but when I look at you, you look like you're 25 years old, and you're not. How old
Thanks.
are you?
Oh, I am 48, going on, getting close to 49.
Wow. Okay.
Thank
You're
you.
you're making 48 look like the new 28. I'm not kidding. And Jen too. And you guys also ride motorcycles, and you ride them with Maya as well. And I see you, and I think they look like kids. They're just kids, but they're not. They're adults.
we have fun. We work hard, but we stop fun.
Yeah, that's cool. Anyway, so one of the things that I didn't know until we asked you to be on the podcast was you have a story about going to Shark Tank, and that you and Jen did together. And how did that come about?
Oh gosh. Okay. So Jessie Graff was out in Albuquerque to do some stunt work, and she came to the gym to get a workout in and took some video. And that video was put on Instagram. Insider Magazine picked it up and put it out, and we got 8.6 million views featuring our gym through Jessie Graff.
Wow.
And so Shark Tank saw that video, reached out to us, asked if we wanted to be on the show, and they gave us 2 weeks. 2 weeks. And so, Jen, what do you have to do? What do you have to do to get ready?
They basically had a financial background we had to present to them, and a legal document that was about 250 pages long. So we had to have our attorney look at it. I had to produce all the financial statements, and we had only been operating in business for about a year or less. So I didn't have a whole lot. Our memberships weren't quite ready. So I didn't really know what to do. And at the time, I was working for a CPA firm as their internal IT person. And I went to the partners and I said, hey, we've been approached by Shark Tank to be on the show. What should I do? And he said, what are you doing standing here? Yes, go be on the show. So
Great.
they helped me produce all of the financials and the tax returns. They wanted everything. And I had an attorney look at the legal documents, and they said, sign it and go do it. You'll never get this chance again.
Boy, that is so true. You'll never get this chance again. And it's amazing. So when I've seen people have products, and I've seen people have, ideas, but did you have to bring the gym to them? I mean, how did they know what they were looking at?
Okay, so I have a bunch of portable obstacles because we would set up at parks and schools and things. So I took a little U-Haul trailer, loaded it up with some quintuple steps, a mini warp wall, 2 vault boxes, some drum hoppers, and a double salmon ladder that was portable. And we drove it all the way out to LA. It took about 15 hours. And we went to Culver City, went into Sony Studios, set up on set, and then they had us do a practice run. So, the double doors open, run down the quintuple steps,
Right.
Follow Jen, and then she does the drum hoppers, and I follow her on the drum hopper. Then I'll keep going. I'll do a couple vault boxes, run up the mini warp wall, go do some double salmon ladder, and jump down, and we're going to give our pitch. And Jen nails it, and I completely spaced my lines. It was just crickets.
Yeah.
And so the producers are like, look, you got one more day. You just need to memorize these and come back and nail it. So we're walking up and down Venice Beach, and we're reading the lines to each other. I'm writing them down whenever I get a chance. And then we go back. Same thing, double doors open, run out, run the quintuple steps, and I do the whole thing. I get off the salmon ladder, winded, and Jen starts the lines, and I nail my lines. Thankfully, it was perfect.
That's amazing. So you'll tell us more in a second. I just can't imagine if I was on Shark Tank doing all the obstacles you guys did before you do your pitch. and to not be going, and so this is my new idea. That's exactly what I would be doing. So, hats off for that. So then what happens with, I've never been on Shark Tank, and my brother was a real big fan of Shark Tank. He used to watch it all the time. He thought he was one of the judges. So he did from
It's a
his
fun
armchair.
show. Yeah, it's such a fun show. Okay, so I had Robert Herjavec. There was Lori. There was Mark Cuban in the middle. We had Barbara, and then A-Rod was the guest shark. So they just start asking us questions. Everything's going really well. They love our branding. They love our product. They love everything that we've been doing. They talked to Jen for a while about financials, about how many members we have. And then they ask us, what do you want to do with the money? And I tell them, I'd like to not only open up a workshop, because we have to custom make all these obstacles, right?
Right.
So I want to open up like a pretty big workshop, and then we could franchise out and sell the obstacles, sell the concept, and everything's going perfect. And then what? Let's see. You want me to tell how it goes down? So Robert says, you know what? I love you guys. It's great. But the fact that you only have 200 members, you're too new. I'm out. And I was like, well, trying to explain to him, we don't just make our money off of members, right? We have drop-ins, we have birthday parties, we have camps, and again, we'd only been in business for a year. So,
right. I think 200 members is pretty darn good for a year in Albuquerque.
Right.
A small market.
So anyway, I said, okay, well, thank you for your time. And then Lori, she tells us, she says, you know what, you guys are great, branding's amazing, but it's not my cup of tea. I sell product, and I'm not really into the Ninja Warrior thing, so I'm out. Understandable. Thank you. Mark Cuban in the middle, he says, I think it's great what you guys are doing, but unfortunately, the fact that you want the money for franchising, but you also want the money for a workshop, he's like, I just don't think you know exactly what direction you want to head. I'm out. I said, no, I was trying to explain that there's no other way to get these obstacles. They are custom made. Anyway, so that was disappointing. And Barbara, same kind of thing. She said, you guys are great. Loved talking to you guys. We had a lot in common actually with her first partnership that failed. Anyway, so she was out, and then I'll look down the line there, like, and then there was one.
So we had one shot to make an impression, and I jumped in. And what people didn't realize was when we opened the gym, we went to the banks to get business loans, and the banks would not even touch us.
Sure.
We were one of 5 ninja gyms in the nation to even create this type of product. So Josh and I refinanced our house. We took all the equity out of our house.
Wow.
We refinanced a Jeep.
We refinanced our car. It took all of the equity out of our vehicles, and we maxed out every single credit card we had. So everything was put on the line. Failure was not an option for us. Like, we had put everything in this business that we could not fail. So I told the sharks that, I said, this is all done by us. We had no investors. We had no bank loans. And right after that, then A-Rod then jumped in.
Oh, well, that is, that talk about being invested. Wow. And I know that in our relationship, I'm the person with all the ideas and wanting to do this and that. And Bob's like, well, what about money here? What about this? And so if I told him, okay, I want to do X, Y, and Z, and we're going to refinance our house and our cars are paid off, but okay, we're going to get loans on our cars or whatever, he would no. So Jen, that you must believe in what you're doing to do that. So that's a big deal. Anyway, so
it was
okay,
scary.
It was, of course, it was scary. But without risk, there's no reward. I'm sorry,
right?
You can't do it sitting in your living room watching TV every night. It's not going to happen. So then A-Rod said,
So he said, yeah, we'll give you we were only asking for $100,000 and 20% because I knew we didn't have an established business that could show it was worth more. So in my mind, I said, as long as we have a shark that believes in this, that's all that really matters. So he's like, I'll give you the $100,000 for 20%. But he said, but I want 30% actually. And I said, um, well, would you do 25%? He said, no. And he said, but it's contingent on one thing. And I said, what? He said, that we get Jessie Graff as a partner. And in my mind, I was like, that is impossible. She's too famous. She's got too many things going on. I'm sure she's already involved in other projects. So in my mind, I said, does it have to be Jessie Graff? No, not in my mind. I was like, does it really have to be Jessie Graff? And he said, yes. And I thought, well, what if we can't get her? And he's like, well, I can get her. And yeah. So I was like, okay. I was like, Jen, what do we do? And she looked at me. She's like, I guess if you want to do it. And so he said, sure, we have a deal. And he stood up. He walked over. This guy was massive. He was like, I
He's
don't know,
huge.
towers over me. And he shook my hand. And I felt like, like I was a little baby. Shaking my hand, engulfed my hand, and shakes Jen's hand. And then, we turn around. Jen does the drum hoppers. I do the drum hoppers. She runs down the hallway, down the quintuple steps. I take the quintuple steps out. The doors close, and they give us like this post interview. And to me, I could not be excited because I knew there was no deal, even though because he said it's contingent on Jessie Graff. In my mind, I'm like, there's no way we're getting her. So I was like, it's going to fall through. I wasn't happy. They asked all these questions of post for interview, and I couldn't be excited. So I definitely didn't give a good interview. And then Jen, what about you?
I didn't know who A-Rod was. So I was not excited because I didn't know who this guy was. I'm like, who did we just make a deal with? So I'm trying to think, who is this guy? So it was, it's a little hard to get too excited.
Yes, I see the point. I think it's really good, and I wish you could have mentioned that to him because he probably can't believe nobody knew who he was.
That's okay, Jen. I had no idea who he was either.
Yeah, I do. We were in the airport going to Italy once, and Shaq was there. And I came up to him and asked for a picture. And I have a picture, and I look like his 5-year-old standing next to him. So I know the feeling, these guys are big guys, and he was very lovely. And everyone in the airport knew who he was. Bob didn't know who he was, but he did. He realized afterwards he thought he'd heard of him. But I got a lot of street cred with my grandson when I sent him the picture of me with the shack. But anyway, so then what happened? TV and then networks, boy, I know I worked in the industry. So then what happens with the show?
Okay, so about a month later, we get a phone call and they tell us, well, you remember right before you got on Shark Tank, we had you sitting around the room going over all the legals, and we told you that just because you're on this doesn't mean you're going to get on the show. And said, well, we filmed 26 episodes and the network only purchased 23, so unfortunately you guys were in one of those 3 episodes, so you're not going to be aired. And man, that was just so heartbreaking because it was just such an exciting experience, and we couldn't take pictures or video or anything. Right. All I have is like a parking pass from Sony Studios, and with my name on it and Shark Tank. And I would have just been great just to see it, just to let our friends and family see it. And I'd love to even just get my hands on that episode. Would be exciting. But
yeah, well, now it's been on TheKnifeWife, so a couple thousand people will know about it. Nothing like NBC, but right. I'm glad you told us that story. So now you have the gym, and at this point, I know that Jen is working full-time with you in the business. She no longer works for the accounting firm. What do you do, Jen? Tell us what you do. We know what Josh does. What do you do?
So I worked for a CPA firm at the same one for 25 years. And at the time, I was working full-time and then coming back to the gym in the evenings to coach and work Saturdays and Sundays. We basically, for about 6 years, did 7 days a week, and I continued to keep my full-time job because we didn't pay ourselves. Everything that we had went directly back into the gym, and we couldn't afford health insurance, and the company I worked for at the time provided health insurance, so it was a consistent salary, and we had a family to feed, so I couldn't leave. So I was there full time and then working at the gym. And then about 2 years ago, the firm I worked for was downsizing, and I was laid off. And after 25 years at the same place, I had basically nothing to show for it. So I had to make a decision. Was I going to continue the corporate industry or jump on board and make my own company successful and work full time? And Josh said, I'd love to have you at the gym full time. I need you here full time. And it was very scary because we lost our consistent salary, but I'd rather invest in a company that belongs to me than invest in a company that belonged to somebody else.
Yeah. And
So
whoever's
here I am.
listening, think about that. When you give your life to a corporation or to some company, how important it is, how entrepreneurs, I mean, there's so many that we talk to on this podcast and we know in our world. And in the end, I'd rather knock myself out for my thing than somebody else's thing, because as you just explained to us, after 25 years, what do you have? Nothing. A watch? Do they give you a watch? I mean, they used to give people things like that. They probably didn't give you anything.
No.
Yep.
She got her vacation pay, I think, and that's it.
Wow. So yeah. So now, what do you do? What is your role at the gym?
Basically everything but obstacles. Josh is the creator. He's the visionary artist. I take care of the HR, all of the employees, payroll, taxes, the bookkeeping, advertising, everything except what happens on the ninja floor.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a perfect balance because he does what he's good at, I do what I'm good at, and nobody steps on anyone's toes. He wants to build something. I ask how much it's going to cost, and I give him the green or the red. So, yeah, it works out.
This sounds very familiar. This sounds remarkably familiar to me.
Yeah, it is. People have dreams and ideas and things, but eventually it has to come down to, do we have the money?
Well, and I think about in a relationship, usually, as I said before, there's one fun person or one creative person or one person who wants to, let's do this, and then they have the reality, the adult. I call Bob the adult in our relationship.
Exactly.
And he'll say, well, what about this, Susan? I mean, I am an adult, so I can handle no. But if we both were like me, we'd have nothing. And if we were both like him, we'd be boring and stay in our shop all day. So I think it's a good balance for you two and for us too. So not that you're boring, Jen, because you do ride a motorcycle and I see some other things you do. Do you do any yoga or anything do you teach any classes or coach people?
I do. So in the beginning, when Josh was building in our backyard, I was not ever an athlete. I didn't grow up like he did with an athletic background. So at the time, I enjoyed running and I did yoga, and that was about the extent. When we opened the gym, he said, Jen, you need to learn how to do this stuff. And I was terrified. I couldn't even do a push-up at the time. I just thought, this is not anything I'm ever going to be good at. But I knew I had to coach one day and learn how to do it. So we created a class that was an adult class that would condition you to do the obstacles. And it's what I coach now, the beginner, intermediate, adult classes in the evenings, and I can do probably 60% of the obstacles on the floor. I'm definitely stronger than I ever was, and it just gave me confidence that I never thought I could do anything athletic.
Wow, that's amazing. Like, I'm not going into the shop and making 60% of Bob's knives, let me tell you. But I do 100% of the deals in all the business. So anyway, yeah, he just goes there and just goes in there and does his magic like Josh does on the floor, because Josh is a creative guy, because he plays an instrument. He does all kinds of things. So, wow. This is like such a nice story. I knew when you started the business and you opened the second gym, we just moved to California after that. So I really haven't caught up, and it's been a great story. I know you've been 10 years working together and married 25. You seem like kids. How could you be married 25 years? And I remember when you got married. What would you give other couples for advice about working together?
My advice would be stick with what you're good at, and acknowledge each other's strength and weakness. I know my strength is organization and finances, and I know Josh's strength is creativity, and I don't step on his toes. He doesn't step on mine, and it's just a good balance. Even in our home life, I've always taken care of the bank accounts and the house, and he's always taken care of us as far as like making sure we stay healthy with food and nutrition, and he'll put anything together and fix anything where I'm not good at that stuff. So we balance each other out, and like you said, like he brings the fun and adventure, and
You make it happen.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Well, that's great. Staying in one's own lane. Other couples have said similar things. That once Bob, if he gets into something I'm doing or whatever, I'll say to him, he loves this. He really does not love this. I'll say, don't micromanage me. And he doesn't really like that. But I don't like to be micromanaged by anybody. And as you guys know, I worked in the film industry, and I had 100 people all day micromanaging me. So that was amazing. I lasted as long as I did. Anyway, well, our time is about up. I've just loved catching up and getting to know more about a ninja gym. We have another couple who were on the podcast, and he's a dojo. He's a jiu-jitsu black belt. I call him Sensei. Clyde and Pamela were on. And they pretty much have it balanced like this, like you do, as far as their roles in their gym. And they don't have a subscription. And I really am pushing them to do a subscription, because we can't be dependent on people's whims when they want to come and go. We have to pay the rent every month. So is that how you work with your subscription? Do people pay every month to belong to the gym?
Yeah, so we have memberships. There's definitely people that just drop in randomly, but we have the monthly memberships. We make a lot of our money off of birthday parties and camps as well.
Really?
So
okay. And do you ever worry about kids getting hurt?
Yes and no. I mean, I'm always really strategic with placement of mats and just how I set up all the obstacles. And then, anybody that even walks in here, whether it's a kid or adult, we take them through a prerequisite class, and we show them safety and technique on the major obstacles. And then even before every kid's class, I do a big walkthrough, show them all the safety zones, what they need to be focusing on. And just, so it's rare that I have injuries. A lot of times it's people trying things that they should have known better, didn't have the skill level, and they just wanted to go for something big and major, or just as a random tripping.
Right.
But compared to a trampoline park, oh my gosh, there's people getting their arms broken like daily over there.
Broken.
And
yeah.
Most of our injuries are going to be rolled ankles, honestly. So it's nothing major. Yeah.
Jen, how's the grass in the backyard doing? Do you still have the obstacles back there, or
They
has
have a
that
new
been all
backyard.
dismantled? Are you now mowing the grass again?
Well, we've since moved to a different house and rented out that house, and we did dismantle all of the ninja obstacles, and it's probably dirt now.
It's probably just dirt. Yeah. I haven't been in that backyard in a real while.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Good question, Bob. I knew the answer to that question. Anyway, and you have a guy who comes in on Mondays and vacuums the gym. We know him pretty well.
Yeah, my dad has been a big help, actually. It's nice
has.
to have him around, and he definitely helps out a lot.
Yeah. So, hey, Dr. Kronberg, we say hello. It was Josh's father who introduced Bob and I. So the Kronbergs have a special place in our heart. Josh and Jen, where can we find you on social media?
So we do have an Instagram page and a Facebook page, and you can just go to Ninja Force Gym, and our website is ninjaforcegym.com.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. I hope we took a little break from toxic media and answered the questions that nobody asks. Anyway, Bob, can you say goodbye? Say something?
Goodbye, everybody. Arrivederci.
All right. Thanks, Josh and Jen.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys. Great talking to you guys.
Same
Okay.
here.
Thanks for listening. If you like what you're hearing, please share this with a friend and subscribe where you listen to podcasts. Please support our efforts through Patreon at TheKnifeWife, and for all Terzuola goodness, go to terzuola.net. And remember, if you're not laughing, you're not living. Comments and questions can be made on Instagram at The KnifeWife Podcast or our Facebook group, The KnifeWife Podcast. And if you're a couple who work together and would like to be on our podcast, tell us about yourself with an email at eccentricsuz.com or terzuola.net.